the first thing to understand is that where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to become successful, you can be successful. The moment that you unlock the mental framework that, hey, my life can actually be something more than...
I think what really struck me the most was your background. You came from Argentina to the US at 16 years old, which is actually incredibly young. So I'm fascinated. How did you make that move? Did you come with anyone? Did you know where you were going? You know, how were you making money? You were waiting tables and then you sort of put that money into crypto. Can you explain that journey of how you got to the US and built everything up?
I think the first thing to understand is that where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to become successful, you can be successful. It doesn't matter if you're 16, if you're 14, if you're 22, if you're 30. The moment that you unlock the mental framework that, hey, my life can actually be something more than the village that I grew up in, or the construct that my parents or the narrative that I've been raised under. And thankfully, I got that data set unlocked at an early age. At 16, I realized, hey, my parents were working regular jobs. Argentina had just defaulted, right, over the last couple of years with their debt. And they were in a situation whereby the country was pure socialism. I looked at America. I'm like, I can literally go and get rich. I can go and build a business. I can go and do things that I want to do. Now, waiting tables for me was a privilege. Like, I would go and make $100 in a night. I'm coming from a third world country. That is a lot of money. Sure, I have to pay for rent and things of this nature, but I was like, whoa, I'm at the bottom of the echelon here, just getting started, and I'm making a couple $100s a day. What I need to do is get extremely intelligent. So what I started doing is focusing on unlocking data sets, becoming extremely knowledgeable, because I understood that if I wanted to play the game of life, it couldn't just be hustling. It couldn't just be working hard. I needed a strategy, and I needed to learn from people that had strategies, piece those things together, find my winning strategy, what it means to be successful, and attack that strategy. And Bitcoin, crypto was part of that strategy. Why? Easy multiplier, low risk, high reward. I was part of the bull run in 2017. I lost money in the 2017 bull run, but I knew it was going to come back. I knew social media was going to play a massive part into it because I got into crypto because of social media. So I was like, what I need to do is position myself. I was able to make a good amount of Bitcoin. And when it was a couple $100, and I had a good stash of Bitcoin saved up. And I realized that all I needed to do was maintain that money, stashed away because it's hard money, and then just have enough money inside the system to be able to operate. But I'm starting to move outside of the system as much as possible because I truly believe in decentralization. And it's not this decentralization out of the system. It's this understanding that the system is just one piece of the ingredient. And even though it's kind of a monopoly, I realized early on that I need to make money in order to be outside of that system. So Bitcoin was one of those solutions. It worked out well, and here we are today.
But what confuses me about this story is I think we're pretty close in age. When I was 16, that's not what I was thinking. So how were you thinking outside of the system at such a young age?
I think you can't judge how a seed grows in two different gardens. I think it was just a different situation for a different individual in a different time. I think it's not so much that I'm a special individual. It's just that I took advantage of the information and the knowledge that I had at the time. Look how many people knew about Bitcoin before I did. Look how many people didn't buy it. Look how many people saw that e-commerce and making money online was going to be a thing, and they didn't capitalize on the opportunity. The difference between me and somebody else was that I just took action, and I did something with the information that I had. And that's the difference between a winner and a loser. And the reason I'm a winner is not because I have a better brain capacity, because my brain processing power is so much better. No, I'm actually dedicated to what? To winning. And when I realized that I couldn't make excuses, I was fully reliable for the information that I absorbed. And what I did with that information, I decided to act, because action equals reaction. We know this to be true. If there is a cause, there's an effect. So if I'm poor, something is causing that poorness. I need to be able to address it. I was able to address it at an early age, and that was financial illiteracy, inadequacy to be in the marketplace and offer value. And that was what I needed to solve. Become financially literate and provide value. When you provide value, you make money. When you become financially literate, you know how to move your money and keep your money. So many people out here talk about how to make money. Bro, when you start playing the game, you're going to understand it's even harder to keep the money.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different game. But well, that's a conversation for a different time.
It is a conversation for a different time, but it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's such an important point, because we're here in Miami where everyone's making money, but nobody's saving money. And you know things, and you hear things about, different people and things that they're doing, and nobody's learning how to save their money. Everybody gets rich really quick.
I think it's reverse narratives. I think you need to play reverse narratives. If people did what most people don't do, they're most likely going to have different results, aka be successful. So if you see that people are spending money, then you need to ask, what are they spending money on? So the problem isn't spending. The problem is, what are you spending it on? And does it have a return? Not just does it have a return, does it have a return towards my predetermined goals? You have to allocate this fuel and this energy. That all money is energy that you input towards different things. That's why I have no emotional attachment towards my net worth. Why? Because it's just stored up energy that I'm going to deploy to empower people, to empower communities, to fulfill my dreams, to take care of my family. It's just energy fuel. It's just a tank. You don't look at a tank full of gas and somebody that has a little bit of gas and it's like, psh, like you're a peasant, you're a piece of shit because your tank's not full. No, how can I help you? And this way, that you operate in a different dynamic. So instead of shitting on people, hey, you don't have money, you're poor, it's understanding, hey, money doesn't really mean anything. It's just one factor, one spectrum of this entire equation. It's a very interesting conversation. I think the premise of our talk with liberty is also going to be important to the financial independence of an individual. But I genuinely believe it starts in the brain and it starts in the mind, because you have to become educated. And nobody's going to do it for you. And people that think that they go to the school system and find true education, you don't. You find indoctrination. And people have assumed this idea that the information they've received is education, and it's truly not. So your job is to go find truth. I often talk about the scientific method as the approach to finding truth. The scientific method is tested and proven, observation, testing, hypothesis, and you go through an entire cycle till you arrive to a conclusion. In the same way, you can have a scientific method towards your approach in life. You can have a scientific method where you observe something and ask yourself, is this true or is it false? But people are like, well, science. Well, what is science? Define science. What is science? Science, if you break it down to its most basic common denominator, basic English, 15th century, it basically means to split, right? To split. And at its essence, it's splitting what? Truth from falsehood. Science is the process of finding truth. So when you have this, hey, do you believe in the science? You can't believe science. You know science, because science is the understanding of truth between falsehood and truth. Leonardo da Vinci famously said, study the science of art and study the art of science. Learn how to see. Realize that everything connects to everything else. So if everything connects to everything else, how I operate in my business, how I have my mindset, how I move to a different country, how I take risks, how I become successful, how I lose money, how I go through bad partnerships, how I do good partnerships, how I treat my relationships, how I interact with my employees, all of that is a cumulative representation of who I am. The money is just an aspect. So when you peel back the curtains of Luke Belmar, I'm just an individual here trying to empower others. I'm not special. I won't be remembered when it's all said and done. And I'm totally okay with that. Like, it's not a big deal.
You might be.
But if I'm not, it's totally fine. And in that process, as long as we can have a great existence and you leave better today than you were when we first interacted, I think it's a worthy ideal to live by. So that's kind of a little bit about me.